Hey guys, top of the morning to you. So I recently did a poll that after I reached 700 subscribers, that if you guys wanted me to do a Q&A. And yeah, 21 people voted yes. So here we are. And before I get on with the questions and answering and stuff, I just want to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed and watched and liked and shared and supported this channel. It means a lot. It's just cool to think like there's like hundreds of people out there who want to listen to me, of all people, talk shit about horror movies. So it's really cool. It's really special, and it means a lot to me. So I take my hat off to you all. I'll put it back on because, you know, bad hair day. But seriously though, thank you all. I appreciate it. I appreciate every one of you. Now, let's get on with the questions. So, question 1 is from Stuck on Horror. Great name. Congratulations on reaching 700. If you could ask one question to any horror icon, actor, director, etc., who would it be and what would you ask them? That is a very good question and a very tough one too. What would I ask? There's so many things I want to ask, but what comes to the top of my head at the moment would be I would love to have dinner with John Carpenter and Tommy Lee, and I would just love to ask them, what other ideas did you have for the anthology after Halloween 2? Now, we know we got Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which I think was a great movie. I watched it whenever I was a kid, and I thought it was underrated. Thankfully now, people are starting to catch on to it, and it's becoming a cult classic, thankfully. People are starting to appreciate it more. And yeah, that's what I would ask them, what other ideas after Season of the Witch, if it had have done well, and it had been praised by audience, what other ideas would you have had, anthology-wise, for future movies? I think that would be an interesting question. So yeah, that's what I would ask. Thank you for the question, Stuck on Horror. Next question from Empire Studio 2017. Hi, can you make an interesting video on how horror movies blend science with supernatural powers, such as time traveling and so on? Your videos are so entertaining. Thank you for the question, and I try to keep them entertaining, so thank you for that. And yes, I would happily make a video on that, 100%. In fact, I will. I'm going to add it to my list, and I'm going to get on it. So I'm thinking of what movies with science, and what comes to mind in terms of putting science with horror movies and blending it. First thing that comes to our mind is The Fly and the original Terminator. I know Terminator isn't a horror franchise, but the first movie I say is technically a slasher movie. Only the original, not the second, not the third, only the original. Because it is basically a horror, technically. And I guarantee if there wasn't any more Terminator movies made after one, and it had been just a one and done, it would be in the horror category. I guarantee it. So I'm thinking of movies like that, because there's time travel in the Terminator. And The Fly, there's science in it. That's definitely going to make a really interesting video. Actually, I'm quite excited about this. But yeah, so yes, I'll 100% make that video, and it's going to be a great conversation. So yeah, thank you for the question, and I'll get straight on it. So this next question is from Tears of a Clown. What got you into horror reviews, brother? I've always wondered that, to be honest. So I'm glad that now you've got this Q&A to put it among other questions. Shout out to you, Craig. What got me into horror movies or horror reviews? Well, I was a big horror fan, like since I was a kid, literally since I was a child. My grandmother, she used to bring VHSs, and there were horror movies, all the horror movies. Every week, she would bring two different VHS tapes, and they would be horror movies. The first one was Stephen King's Cat's Eye, highly underrated movie. I don't understand why no one talks about it. And Scanners. I remember distinctly they were the two first ones. And I just watched the hell out of them. I just kept watching. And then anytime I went to her house, she had the TV and she had the unit under the TV. And when you pulled the unit out, there was like 50, 70 VHS tapes. And I would just look through the whole thing until I found like a horror movie. And they were mostly horrors. And I found one which I kept replaying and replaying every time I went to her house, which was Friday the 13th, part 6. And I just distinctly remember putting it on all the time, watching it. And then just from there on, growing up, horror became my favorite genre. And, I kept watching them. And so eventually I got to a point where it was last year I started this channel. Yeah, last year. Where I just love talking about horror movies. Even if I'm not talking to anyone, I'm talking to you guys now. But I thought instead of talking to myself and giving myself a headache, why don't I put the camera on while I'm doing it? And I thought, hey, shit, that works. And I really enjoy creating, all my intros from my other any review I make. You'll notice I have an intro, different intro, because I just enjoy a bit of acting. I went to drama classes years ago. I only went a couple of times and I sort of dropped out, but I always had an interest in drama. So yeah, I enjoy doing the bit of acting. I just enjoy setting the camera and making a scene and having cool shots in it. And I just enjoy doing that. I really genuinely find it therapeutic and just enjoyable overall. It's fun to create. So yeah, that's a long answer, but yeah, that's basically it. I've always been a horror fan, and I just love talking about horror movies. And here we are. Next question is from Rick's Horror. Do you enjoy other genres outside of horror, and do you feel like doing reviews for other films outside the genre that you really enjoy? Ooh, that's a good question. Very good, actually. And before I get on with the question, you guys should check out Rick's Horror. He has a really good channel and it's got some really good horror content on it. In fact, we both did a short together. And we are planning in the future to do a full movie review together. No, a full-on collab. So that's going to be interesting. I'll put the link in the description to his channel below. So if you want to check it out, I highly recommend it. He's really good at what he does. And yeah, hey, tell him I sent you. So on to the question. Would I review movies other than horror? I have flirted with the idea. I actually have. I actually thought about it. Like, for example, a movie I'm going to see this weekend, Twisters. And I thought, that would be really cool to review, wouldn't it? But then again, my subscribers maybe they only want to see horror. I mean, that's probably why they subscribed, because it's a horror channel. But I don't know. It's complicated. Like, but I mean, I'm perfectly fine just doing horror. I love it. I really enjoy it. I said I'm a huge horror fan. Horror is my favorite genre. But yeah, I know there is going to be one movie I'll be reviewing, and it's not a horror movie, but it's only because I promised. I made a promise to a friend of mine, Matty, and it's going to be Tropic Thunder. And I promised him that I would do it. And odds are it might be just a one and done, just that one, and then the rest is just going to be horror. But if it does well and people respond, like in a way that they want more reviews that isn't only just horror, then yeah, I'd be open to the possibility. Yeah, I take any consideration, any recommendation into consideration, like from the comments. I read every single comment on my videos. So, what do you guys think? Do you think I should open it up to more genres, or do you think I should just stick with horror? Let me know in the comments below. Great question, Rick. So, next question is from Sink Laird, and they ask, do you think Michael only comes out on Halloween because it's a colder time of year? And if it was a few months earlier, he'd be sweating his ass off in that mask. um, that's a good question. I mean, I can't imagine Michael Myers being in any way smelling of good odor. In fact, the first scene I think of is from the original Halloween 2, where like he puts his hand on the girl's shoulder and she takes it and she's like kissing it and stuff, and you see they're all big, grimy, dirty ass hands. So that's a brilliant question. Um, I imagine, yeah. I mean, it's never really been explained as to why Michael only seems to come at Halloween. I mean, I know Laurie Strode said in Halloween H2O, one rainy night he decides to go trick or treating. That's like kind of the closest we sort of get. Is it like I? They don't really specify, but maybe it is because of the coldest time of year. Maybe he doesn't like the heat because he's not one for taking his mask off voluntarily, is he? So you can imagine standing in the scorching sun with a fucking latex mask on and a big ass boiler suit. So yeah, he probably still hides in that sewer from Halloween Ends. In any Halloween, he probably just hides in a sewer or under a rock with a shade, sitting there with his knife in his hand like that, looking at the calendar, waiting for October to come, or at least for it to get colder. So yeah, and he would definitely be sweating his ass off, and he would stink. I reckon the smell of Michael would stun a horse. Yeah, how good. Great question. So this last question is from Eric, and he asks, "Hey, congrats on your following. What's your favorite genre?" Would be a cool question. I'm sure lots of people ask you your favorite film. I'd like to hear you detail your favorite style of horror film, X, etc., like zombie, slasher, cannibal, etc. Um, Great question, by the way, Eric. Uh, hmm, Very good question. My favorite, I know. Well, my least favorite. I'll get on with the least favorite first, so I can narrow it down for myself. Least favorite would be movies like Paranormal Activity. where, I mean, you could say found footage. There are some all right found footage movies, you know, like very in the minority. Like Cloverfield, I really enjoy. That's one of my favorite like found footage movies. And there's a lot of ones I don't like Paranormal Activity, primarily because of that, and also it takes a long time before shit actually happens. You know, but I'd say my favorite would be, I don't know, slashes. Maybe it's between slashes or like movies like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like original ideas that are wacky, or I mean, there's not many slasher movies out there right now that it's hard to sort of pinpoint and differentiate each one. Oh, look, they're getting killed. Hey, look, yeah, and it's just sort of the same thing. But I like movies that stand out on their own. Like, say again, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's unique. It's different. It's not something that you would see every day. There's ray guns and shot and shit like that. So probably movies like that, like really different movies, I would probably like. Like, I don't really know if I'm even answering this properly or even making sense. Fuck. But I like original ideas, original horror movies with original concepts. They would be my favorite. They would be stand out to me. You can watch any slasher movie or paranormal movie or exorcist movie, and they're all the same. Like most exorcist movies, you know what they're about. So I like original standout ideas. Like, yeah, not sure if that answered your question, but but I hope I answered it to where it at least made sense. And yeah, thanks, Eric. That's a great question. And just as a bonus, just to throw in, because I saw you mentioned about my favorite film. Ironically, nobody has asked me what my favorite horror film is, which I thought I was going to be the first one, but I'll throw it in anyway. This is me asking myself. So my favorite horror movie is, and I've already mentioned it, Stephen King's Cat's Eye. It's literally my favorite horror movie ever. Literally. It doesn't get enough acknowledgement. It's highly underrated. It's a gem, in my opinion. I mean, you have a young Drew Barrymore as a kid in this movie, and the acting is great. James Wood, Alan King. I mean, great actors in this movie, and they all own it. And if you haven't seen it, honestly, I recommend you check it out because it's perfection. In my eyes, some people might watch it and think it's ridiculous or stupid, or not like it, and that's okay. That's the joys of being horror fans. We all get to have an opinion. So yeah, and my follow-up favorite would be Friday the 13th Part 2. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but it could be nostalgia, but I remember watching this over and over and over and loving every bit of it. I never get bored. Even now, I can put it on right now, and I genuinely enjoy it now just as much as I did the first time I watched it. I think it hits all the right notes, and it knows what type of movie it is. So, yeah, that's all the questions. And what do you guys think? Like, do you think I should make another Q&A video in the future? And if you do think that, you can drop your questions down below and I'll keep them for the next video and I'll answer them for you. If you want, only if this interests you. I just thought it would be different, but yeah, I enjoyed answering the questions. I enjoy talking in general. I never shut up. But yeah, once again, to all my subscribers, thank you all so much for the support. It means a lot. You all mean a lot to me. And I love every one of you. You're all awesome. And fuck yeah. Thanks for the questions. Appreciate it highly. And if you reached this far, thank you so much. I for watching. And yeah, but what is your favorite horror movie? Just before I leave, I want to leave on a question for you guys. What is your favorite horror movie and why? Let me know in the comments. Can't wait to find out. I just love talking about horror. I don't give a shit. Funeral, I could be anywhere and I'll just start talking horror. Even if I get thrown out, shit, I'll talk to myself. I'm rambling now and I'm not even making fucking sense. But yeah, anyway, thanks guys. I appreciate it highly. And yeah, thanks for watching. And as always, don't kill anyone.